Holy Gospel according to John, the 10th chapter. At that time, the festival of the dedication took place in Jerusalem. It was winter, and Jesus was walking in the temple in the portico of Solomon. So the Jews gathered around him and said to him, "How long will you keep us in suspense? If you are the Messiah, tell us plainly." Jesus answered, "I have told you, and you do not believe. The works that I do in my Father's name testify to me, but you do not believe because you do not belong to my sheep. My sheep hear my voice. I know them, and they follow me. I give them eternal life, and they will never perish. No one will snatch them out of my hand. What my Father has given me is greater than all else, and no one can snatch it out of the Father's hand. The Father and I are one." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, O Christ.
You may be seated. Several years ago, Henry Nouwen wrote a series of daily meditations that were distributed in a book form. Today, that series is available through email, and they email it out every day as you go along. Here is one of the entries from this past week. Henry Nouwen writes, "Spiritual leadership is the leadership of the Good Shepherd. As Jesus says, good shepherds know their sheep and their sheep know them. There must be a true mutuality between shepherds and their sheep. Good leaders know their own, and their own know them. Between them is mutual trust, mutual openness, mutual care, and mutual love. To follow our leaders, we cannot be afraid of them, and to lead our followers, we need their encouragement and support. Jesus calls himself the Good Shepherd to show the great intimacy that must exist between leaders and those entrusted to them. Without such intimacy, leadership easily becomes oppressive." Intimacy, trust, leadership, all of these are deeply intertwined, and there Nouwen points to a need to attend to that mutuality among the leader and those being led. Trust is at the core. Initiative games, trust exercises, and challenge work are part and parcel of what camping ministry looks like, particularly church camping ministry. Whether the campers are the very youngest or whether they are those confirmation campers that we send every year, or whether they're even high schoolers, the church camp builds in experiences and opportunities that are designed to help that group of campers get to know one another. In knowing each other, they begin to develop both a sense of one another's strengths and struggles. Each exercise builds on the last, and each group works their way through the week and find themselves growing into deeper awareness of and trust with one another. And at the end of the week, there's kind of a capstone trust experience that typically pushes that trust and knowledge of one another to the very limits. Some groups excel. They do really well with this exercise. They have developed an intimacy that Nouwen describes, and a clarity that opens up space for trusting one another. Other groups, well, they struggle to trust one another. They struggle to find that cohesiveness and that space where they can function well together. And in fact, some people come to camp with enough history to know that such trust, such intimacy is a huge risk. Such exercises have also been co-opted by various consultants to executive teams in corporate America, and they are much maligned as too touchy-feely and having little value in the boardroom. Patrick Lencioni writes in his book, The Advantage, that organizational health is the one thing that trumps everything else in the success of corporations. Yet so few organizations invest the time and the energy necessary to make it happen. His first principle when he speaks of high-functioning or highly healthy and effective organizations is that the leadership team, and he defines the leadership team as a small group of people who are collectively responsible for achieving a common objective for their organization. Every person on the team holds a vital responsibility, brings an integral role to the table to meet that common objective in order that they are able to be a team and to be successful. Now, where it gets interesting is when Lencioni talks about that collective responsibility. He says such collective responsibility implies more than anything else selflessness and shared accountability from team members. This is the first and primary building block for health. Whether it comes in mutual trust between leader and follower, or it comes in the courses on a camping ministry, or in the writings of an authority on organizational success, the core concern is that mutual clarity brings health. Today we hear Jesus walking in the temple on the day of the dedications, the festival of the dedication. And the religious leaders come to him and they bait him. Tell us plainly if you are the Messiah. Jesus responds with a call to pay attention. The works that I do testify to who I am. Pay attention to what I do and you will have your answer. But more than that, he says that the sheep hear his voice. I know them, and they follow me. What modern spiritual writers and camp counselors and business consultants point out, Jesus speaks to in response to those who bait him. There is a relationship, there is mutuality, there is indeed intimacy, awareness, and knowledge. But what comes of Jesus and his knowing and being known, trusting and being trusted, is life. Jesus makes a grand claim. Those who see him for who he is and who trust him and follow him are his own. And he tells those religious leaders and us as well that what are his, no one will be able to snatch away. This is true, he tells us, because he and the Father are one, and this unity among the persons of the Godhead points to our very own unity with God in Jesus Christ. By God's love for us and God's invitation that we love one another and indeed love the world, each and every one of the faithful baptized children of God, indeed each and every one of us, is called to participate in the truth of God's mutual work of love, reconciliation, and new life. This is what Lencioni calls health. God reveals these truths in many and various ways, and today we are called to watch for this truth in leadership. Spiritually grounded leadership in all aspects of our lives, in our families, and in our church, and in our community and business operations, and even in our government. We are called to watch for those leaders who by their words and by their actions are seeking health and well-being for all people, even and especially those who are on the margins and those who are most at risk. As Nowan has pointed out, Jesus calls himself the Good Shepherd to show the great intimacy that must exist between leaders and those entrusted to them. Without such intimacy, without such caring and knowing and awareness, leadership easily becomes oppressive.